Welcome back. You're watching us here on Halftime Report on CNBC TV 18. What we're looking at right now is the stock of Pidilite holding well in today's trading session. Even though, the broader markets are doing a lot better in Pidilite, what was a tough quarter, the company went ahead and did about 7% volume growth in their consumer business and 21% in their business-to-business vertical as well. So we spoke with the management. I spoke with Sudhanshu Vats, who takes over as the MD in FY26, and the obvious question was, in a weak consumer environment, what is it that drove their double-digit revenue growth? The company spoke about the drivers and, more importantly, the outlook for the very near future as well. Hear him out.
We continued our investment behind brands and distribution. If you remember last quarter, I think we began the journey to consumerize our brand Roff, which is a tile adhesive brand, in a big way. You would have seen it on Kabaddi, you would have seen the advertisements otherwise as well, and they were very well received. Our investments on distribution continued, whether it is the width of distribution or depth of distribution. Our investments behind Pidilite Ki Duniya, which is our rural flagship stores, grew. We added close to 1,000 and 1,200 Pidilite Ki Duniya in last quarter. We therefore took the number over 16,000, and our unique build outlets, which is the width of our distribution, crossed the milestone of 600,000 outlets in the last quarter. Our investments behind our supply chain, our growing agility on digital, which is our digital app, which you are aware of, Genie, also crossed a milestone of above 35% of all our sales coming on Genie in the last quarter.
We take that point and, congratulations on being able to do that. But just, to further on that point, you attributed a lot of the growth to your increase in distribution, in innovation, as well as some of the premiumization that we saw in Fevicol as well. If you could give us a sense of organically, what was the growth and how much was the incremental growth because of your increase in distribution? If you could break that number up for us. And also give us a sense of how much more did you spend on ads as against same time last quarter?
So we did pick up our spends on ad, Mangalam. But having said that, I think if you remember our ANSPs, if you look at our historic ANSPs, in the quarter that went by, we were at the higher end of our historic numbers, close to about 3.7%. Our ANSPs tend to be around 4, between 3 to 4%. So we've adequately spent on that. I think the incremental growth from what our expansion drive is and what our original pieces is, unfortunately, I will not be able to share the breakup of that, but I can assure you that the growth on core business, which we've always maintained, was also good. The growth on core business was in middle to, strong middle single digit. But the growth on our growth businesses, if you remember, we classify our businesses into core, growth and pioneer. On growth, we were able to deliver high teens to mid-teens growth in our growth business. And I think that's what has helped us as we move forward.
Have you seen a change in consumer sentiment from the third quarter up until now?
So the consumer demand, Mangalam, as you would hear from multiple people, tends to remain a little soft. Having said that, I think what we need to do as companies and what Pidilite is doing is to identify pockets and segments and continue to build and strengthen the portfolio to be able to address all of India. And the good news is that there are pockets where there is enough growth still. There are pockets where there is an issue with growth. So I think what we continue to do is to continue to strengthen our portfolio, build areas of pockets where we could grow faster. And also the good news for us as a company is we've got a balance between B2C and B2B. And as you would have seen from our numbers, our B2B segment delivered a 21.7% underlying volume growth in this quarter.
And that was what my next question was on B2B business, because consumer sentiment weak, you did about 7% in weak sentiment, your target is close to around double digit, but B2B made up for that with a 21% growth. How sustainable is this growth that you're seeing in B2B?
So B2B growths have been good. Actually, so if you were to look at our last 6 to 8 quarters on B2B growth, we've been delivering strong double-digit, arguably high teens growth in B2B. As the momentum on infrastructure continues, we continue to remain very positive on B2B growths moving ahead.
So high teens is what one can expect. At what point do you expect the consumer sentiment to turn? Because, everyone we've been speaking to is medium to long-term bullish on India, but near-term is relatively soft. No one's been able to pinpoint, the key drivers for consumer sentiment in the very near term. If you could give us a sense on when do you expect it to turn? And once that turns, with all the work that you've done, how much higher can you grow from what you're already doing?
So, Mangalam, I think it is difficult to predict at specific time. But what I can tell you is what we are very eagerly looking forward to is therefore how the monsoon which went by, which is a good monsoon, begins to play out in rural demand in a positive way. There is a little bit of uptick already coming. So will that be growing further? I think that's one piece. The second piece is as the new budget comes in, we are very hopeful of the finance minister giving more money in the hands of Indian consumer. And I think if that happens, I think there could be a ripple effect of that onto growth in consumer sentiment and consumer demand. So I think these two are positive factors we are watching out for and seeing how they play out as we go forward.
The paint business, you guys have been pretty mum about that. Could you give us an update here?
Mangalam, we've always maintained, and Bharat has maintained that categorically, that I think we've got to give it a little bit more time. We will come back to you with how we are doing. Because in the initial period, with the strength of our distribution and the initial trials which will happen, there could be an unusual exuberance which we don't want to share. All I can tell you is we are making steady progress. We have expanded from 3 states to 5 states. We continue to make good progress, and we will share a lot more in detail in the next 3 to 6 months.
Sudhanshu, AkzoNobel is on the block. Are you interested?
See, Mangalam, we keep looking at opportunities from time to time. Pidilite is a company which has always been looking at opportunities. So we will continue to look at opportunities. On this specific case, there is nothing for me to share at this moment.
You've looked at it, I'm sure.
No, we keep looking at opportunities from time to time. So I think, so therefore, but there is nothing for me to share at this moment.
Do you like the asset?
So as I always maintain, we keep looking at opportunities. We will evaluate how they fit into our portfolio, what is the right price at which we should look at that opportunity, and therefore what is in it for us. So like any other opportunity, we will continue to look at this opportunity as well, but there is nothing for us to share.
All right, I hope that at some point you will. But just off the cuff, do you like the price at which it is right now?
It is difficult for me to comment, I don't want to be speculative on this, Mangalam.